Hello, I am Scott Litman, one of the co-founders of Lucy, and I am happy to welcome you to the TMRE event where we are going to be talking about the case for a knowledge system. And what is your story? And really, what is the story of the user that supports the need for these knowledge systems? So we'll start with just what do we see in the industry? We have been hearing more and more for this need or desire to have these sorts of one-stop shops for knowledge or these knowledge systems. And it really began pre-pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, we saw more RFPs, more RFIs for these one-stop shops for knowledge. But the need for it was really highlighted with the pandemic, with so many people working remote and from home and from locations all across the globe. How do you make sure that the right information is in the hands of the right people and when they need it? And so when we think about this, this is what we encounter every day. We talk with our customers, we talk to prospects, and we see that there has over the years been an explosion of knowledge and information. And that information is going to include all of the documents and plans and studies and strategy decks and recap reports that are generated internally that live in systems like SharePoint and Office 365 and Box and Dropbox. But it's also all of the work that comes from agency partners, as well as syndicated data that comes from third parties. And with more and more data, it increases the challenge of how do I find what I need when I need it? And we see on the right side of this slide here, some of the common challenges that business face. The first just is the amount of time that is spent looking for that information. You know, the typical research or insights professional is going to have 10, 20 or more tabs open on their browser. They're going to be going into different tools and they're going to be searching through where is the answer? Where is that data? Well, that is time consuming. We also see inefficiencies in the sharing of information. And while it is easy to send an email with an attachment, or it is easy to post a document to Teams and say, everybody take a look at this, on the other end, people are inundated. Do they have time to read that attachment? Maybe, but the bigger challenge is, will they remember what's in it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or months from now when needed? We also see with all of the different data systems internally, as well as the tools and subscriptions, that there is no consistent taxonomy or tagging or metadata strategy in the enterprise that allows information to easily be found. We also see a challenge with the cost of redundancy, people doing the same work over again. And while I'm not going to go do the same project, how does anybody know what I've worked on? If I assign a task to a team member, you know, work on this study, we need to find audience data for, you know, this audience that's 29 to 45 in the Northeast that's bought these kinds of products before. Has our company done that before? Or are we going to reinvent the wheel? And every time we do the same sort of work again that's already been done, there is a cost to it, either in people time or dollars that go outside. Retention of institutional knowledge is a big one. People come and go, and the knowledge of what they worked on goes with them. So even though their documents remain, the knowledge of them has gone away. And in all likelihood, that data is not going to be reused, even though it still is valuable to the organization. We also look at the challenge of video assets. There are things like focus groups and usability studies that are loaded with great insights, but who is going to re-watch again and again that 10 hours or 20 hours or 50 hours or more of that sort of video to find those insights? It's very challenging. And then we also see in some of the companies we work with the challenge of there's such a dependence on the subject matter experts. And it's even harder today when the typical water cooler talk or the 5 minutes between meetings where you can grab somebody who's gone. And so the subject matter experts are being bombarded with emails and messages over Teams and Slack for help. And perhaps there's an opportunity for people to be able to use knowledge to help themselves. So these are things that we see through the industry, and they're a big reason why there's such a big push for these one-stop shops for knowledge. Now, we are the creators of Lucy, and Lucy is the AI companion to the research and marketing professional. She is built for those largest organizations, the Fortune 1000, and it's her job to read, listen, watch, and learn everything you share with her. And she falls into this category of being an insights engine and really being a core to these typical one-stop shops for knowledge. And in her work as an AI focused on knowledge and really knowledge management, the type of data she works with most typically is going to be unstructured data. It's all the data that's in PowerPoint, PDF, and Word, OneNote, Visio. It can be RTF and text for Mac users. It can include Pages and Keynote. She can listen and watch a couple dozen formats of audio and video. And she can be connected to the syndicated data that you have subscriptions to. So great vendors like an eMarketer by Insider Intelligence, Kantar, Mintel, Euromonitor, GWI, those sorts of subscriptions, if you have them, can be connected. And then we also supplement Lucy with access to some of the really powerful tools, a Knowledge Hound for access to survey data, the Power BIs and Tableaus for their dashboards, great vendors like Zappy and Black Swan, Big Sofa and Vox Populi are all kind of typical integrations that we see in these one-stop shops for knowledge. So if we're going to build the one-stop shop for knowledge, we need to know who we're building it for. What is the challenge that they face? How are we going to overcome that? This isn't a build it and they will come. We need to make sure that whatever we deploy to the enterprise is purpose-built and that we understand the problem we're trying to solve. So one of the things we look at is the customer persona or customer journey. And so here's an example. So meet Jenna. Jenna is an insights professional to Fortune 1000, a multinational. Today she's working from home, but someday she hopes to get back to the office. Her company is loaded with data. There are dozens and dozens of SharePoints. There are great subscriptions and tools. The challenge is today she has to build out the marketing plan. Today she needs to figure out how does she find past reporting, plans, studies, audience data and metrics, media campaigns that ran in the past and how they performed. And she's got a big task in front of her. So where does she start? And we can see just the range of different SharePoints or volumes or folders of internal data. We can see some of these great subscriptions or tools that she might have access to. But it's overwhelming. Across these systems are going to be millions and millions of pages of content. And she might have some ideas on the files she should pull from, but she can't know the full range of everything that's there. If Jenna is one of 1,000 people and there's 999 other people, as well as predecessors that have been creating content, it's just a lot, not to mention all the great data coming from these tools and outside vendors. So she goes to Teams and she sends out a message asking for help. And the thing is, for the subject matter experts on the other end, are they available? Do they see the message? Do they respond? She might get some good stuff back, but she's not going to get everything she needs back. And so we asked Jenna, and she spends over 10 hours per week looking for information in her systems and tools and subscriptions when working on these tasks. Over 20% of her work hours are in this search for data. Now, we've done studies across many of our customers, as well as customers coming in, and we have found that the average insights professional spends anywhere from 5 to 10 hours per week, 10 to 25% of their time in tools looking for this type of data. And so if that's the journey that Jen is on, can we put it together in something that helps us, with that persona model? And so, here is a template that we might use where we think about her goals, her needs, her pain points. And this ends up being very powerful because when we build out the system, we need to make sure that we solve Jenna's problem, that when we're training her, when we have communications, that for Jenna, she can say, that's for me, and that solves my problem. And this is turning hours into minutes, and that we can measure it. So what does this all look like? And so let me just pull up Lucy for a moment. And this is Lucy. Lucy is a multi-tenant, cloud-based software as a service. She supports single sign-on. She supports multi-factor authentication. When we go in, we will see Lucy. And I'd say I would love to show you any number of one-stop shops for knowledge. This is clearly the one that I have access to and can share with you. And so as we go in, we see a variety of things. We see our, our general welcome message. Hi, I'm Lucy. We can see quick links to, different published reports and kind of some common intranet type functions. We can see our discover zones where we see latest information, in this case from eMarketer, or latest files that are in SharePoint, or latest data on COVID-19. And then we can see our project boards as well, where collaboration happens. But we're only going to give kind of a mini look at Lucy, and we're going to focus on her ability to find information. Now, if I was in CPG, I might ask a question like, why do people like Greek yogurt? And Lucy's going to understand from that query the intent of the question. She uses what's called natural language processing and natural language understanding to recognize the intent of the question and then apply it against everything that she's read, listened, watched, and learned. On the right side here, you see a variety of answers rated by Lucy's confidence score. Although at the very top on page 15 of 32, she finds a great answer on why people like Greek yogurt. If I was in financial services, I might ask a question like, what concerns do parents have? And you actually see I asked this earlier, so this time she'll present me with a previously asked question: what concerns do parents have about paying for college? And in this case, instead of being a CPG type example, it's financial services. And we work with businesses in everything from healthcare, pharma, retail, CPG, entertainment, financial services, and the like. But here we're seeing great examples. Like here's an answer on page 4 of 5 with some great data on why our, what are the concerns of savings for college. So it's Lucy's job to find that best answer as quickly as possible. But I showed a slide earlier, who listens to podcasts? To this question of who listens to podcasts, I'm going to see answers that come from a variety of sources. Lucy is going to show us that she found a podcast at eMarketer. She found another report or study at eMarketer. She found a survey, a Qualtrics survey, being surfaced by Knowledge Hound. We can see from my internal SharePoint. We can see an IAB report. We see more from eMarketer and Insider Intelligence. I should say eMarketer by Insider Intelligence. And then we see an ESPN slide from a deck in our entertainment folder. And we also can see down here from a public source in Greenbook that we have connected to this Lucy, a great answer as well. Now, I might think that this is the best answer from Greenbook, which is great. I might also look up here and say, well, what is in this study from ESPN? Well, that's really good, but maybe that's best for a sports audience. I might look and say, here's from eMarketer, a graph that's showing us Spotify versus Apple Podcasts. Well, that's not quite what I was looking for, but then I see here some great data about the growth trends over the years of the podcast listening audiences, and that might be spot on for me. And here's a page 4 of 10 of an IAB report inside of my SharePoint with some excellent data on who listens to podcasts. And what I'm really seeing in all of this is that I asked a question and found an answer from 5 or 6 different sources in a matter of 5 or 6 seconds. And without a one-stop shop for knowledge, I would be logging into eMarketer directly. I'd be logging into Knowledge Hound. I would be logging into, going into different SharePoint systems. In this case, miscellaneous, as well as my entertainment folders in SharePoint. And I'd be looking through dozens or hundreds of files. I'd also be looking at systems that don't have the right answer, because when I start my search, I don't know. I'd look through SharePoint volumes thinking maybe they have something. I'd go through a bunch of files, but not find the answer. And so I might take hours or more to find this data without the one-stop shop for knowledge. But with it, I'm being surfaced the best options in a matter of seconds. And so we see that as being very powerful. And so that is our point of view on the one-stop shop for knowledge. the idea that you find a specific user persona that you build it for, and then a bit of what does it look like in practice. And with that, we'll open things up to Q&A. Thank you.